You try to tell me you're a truth teller.
I'll give you one.
Okay.
I'll give you one.
Okay, here we go.
I am intrigued. I'm not fully sold on Brooklyn right now.
KD and Kyrie.
Sold on Brooklyn. I'm not fully sold on Brooklyn.
KD and Kyrie is overrated.
I'm not fully sold. I'm not all in.
Yeah, I support you walking away.
You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. I'm not.
Wow.
This isn't performance art. This isn't acting. You gotta be kidding me.
You're all in? I'm not all in. I'm not all in.
I tell you, the Miami Heat trading for Jimmy Butler to be a 6-7 seed is overrated, and you're like, that's nuts. And then, when forced to find, look at his face. Get a close up. Your ice skates are slipping. Hey, you said KD and Kyrie to the Nets is overrated.
What's your expectation?
I don't need to talk.
No.
What's good, everybody? This is Ball Don't Lie, Penn State Sports Night's NBA-based podcast. Last time, there was no basketball. Today, basketball's back. It started, tipped off Tuesday night.
'Tis the season.
Doubleheader. Wednesday, 11-game slate. A lot of games, a lot of fun basketball to watch. We also got some primetime games on TNT tonight. Again, our first show now that we're in the regular season. This is a podcast where no teams get left behind. I'm Hunter Pitcoff here with a very tired but ready to go David Green.
We're here, we're ready to go, and we're ready to bring you this content. Hunter, let's get right into it.
We are. First, we're going to talk about some of the players who inked deals during the contract deadline. A lot of players from the 2016 NBA draft class. First, we're going to kick it off here. Buddy Hield. On our last podcast, we said that he was disgruntled with the team, being the Sacramento Kings. They eventually reached a deal. He signed a 4-year, $106 million deal. Originally was not on the same page with Sacramento, but clearly he is there for the long term. Was this a good move for the Kings?
Hunter, I like the move. I think it was a good move for the Kings. At first, I think last week we said it. I said Buddy Hield was out of his mind for being, quote, offended by a $90 million offer, but they gave him $106 million for 4 years. I think it was a smart thing to do. If you look at the guy's numbers, he's super productive, and he's putting up really strong numbers. And now that Marvin Bagley is out, he's going to have even more responsibility on this team.
Yeah, like you said, Buddy Hield is, I think he's one of the 5 best shooters, arguably, in the NBA. He just strokes it. I mean, he shoots over 7 threes a game and hits at a 42% clip. The only other player to do that last year was Steph Curry. That's good company to be in. Vlade Divac also called him the next Steph Curry when they traded DeMarcus Cousins for him. And also, I'm curious to see what the Kings do with their other really good young players. Sometimes we have a lot of good young players. Unfortunately, some of them have to go to the money. De'Aaron Fox, you figure, is going to get a deal eventually. Marvin Bagley is figured to get a deal. I think Bogdan Bogdanovic, unfortunately for them, is the guy who probably gets the boot in Sacramento.
Yeah, tough to say. They have a lot of mouths to feed there. Not necessarily right now, but like you said, in due time, those guys are going to have to get paid, and they're going to want to get paid. So it'll be interesting to see what they do and what Vlade decides to do.
Yes, and a player who no one didn't expect to reach an agreement was Pascal Siakam with the Toronto Raptors. He signed all $130 million of that max extension. This is obviously a long-term play for Toronto. He's now the face of the franchise after Kawhi Leonard's time has gone and passed. Do you think he'll be worth this high price tag?
I think that Pascal is worth the price tag. I don't know if he's it's tough to say. He's always improving. He won most improved player. So if he continues at the rate he's going now with his improvement, and he really takes on this extra responsibility now that Kawhi's gone, I think Siakam will definitely be worth the money, and he's so versatile. He's getting better every time I watch him, it feels like.
I 100% couldn't agree with you more, David. Pascal Siakam, I am putting him as a lock to make the All-Star team in the East this year.
He's kind of a matchup nightmare.
He is a match. Like, he's 6'9" and can do a little bit of everything, and he's so athletic, runs the floor so well. Now, a guy who I was a little shocked by the contract was Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. He'll be staying put. 4 years, $115 million. I kind of just wonder, David, how do you think he'll fit in the short-term and long-term plans for the Celtics?
Tough to say with Jaylen Brown. We saw him early on, especially in his second year when Tatum came along. They looked so good, even in the playoffs. They almost beat LeBron James and the Cavaliers. Last year, they took a bit of a step back. Jaylen Brown, he disappointed last year. This year, I know it's only been one game. He didn't have a very good game against the Sixers yesterday. We'll get to that. But I don't know. I would think that he does deserve the money, but he absolutely has to step it up and be more consistent. What do you think?
Definitely agree. I mean, I guess that's just growing pains with a young player like Jaylen Brown. He plays really well in the playoffs for the most part. He did last year too. So, I'm sure a team that tries to make the playoffs every single year, they never tank being the Boston Celtics. You want guys that aren't afraid of the moment. He's not being Jaylen Brown. But there's just so many mouths to feed, especially on the perimeter with Jason Tatum. Kemba Walker's now there. Gordon Hayward, he's going to be incorporated into the offense. Marcus Smart, too. So I kind of wonder what Jalen's role is going to be. But when you have a talent like that, especially when you drafted him with your own draft pick, you want to retain it. So we're going to go next to the Indiana Pacers. They re-signed Domantas Sabonis. This was a bit of a shocker, in my opinion, but I understand. 4 years, $77 million, which could be a bargain for him, but based on what is Indiana's camp, what they let out, it just seems like that they don't believe that Miles Turner and Sabonis can fit in that front court together, and I think one of them does get traded. So if and when do you think either one of those guys get traded? Who do you think it'd be?
Really tough to say, Hunter. Like I said on the show before, I'm really high on Turner, and that doesn't mean that I'm not high on Sabonis too, but I think Turner could be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year this year. The dude led the league in blocks last year. He's an absolute beast, still really young. So I think if one of them gets booted, it might be Sabonis, but
I'd agree.
Tough to say.
Yeah, I think Sabonis does. Like I said, I think he's maybe better offensively, but at the same time, Turner's defense is legit. And I think he's a better all-around player as well. And I think his ceiling's just a little bit higher. So I think that they stick with Turner, especially given that this is a defensive-minded team as well. Now, next, a guy who's really good on defense. He was second-team all-defense in his second year in the NBA. Youngest player to make all-defense in NBA history, past Kobe Bryant, who did in 2000. That's DeJounte Murray, the former 29th pick of the 2016 NBA draft. He missed all of last season with after tearing his ACL in the preseason. He signs a 4-year, $60 million extension to stay with San Antonio. And based on how he looked last night, I think that this move will pay off for the Spurs.
Yeah, to me, and we talked about this off podcast, if you will, that we always say that. But DeJounte Murray is one of those guys who has flown kind of under the radar, because of his injury. So he wasn't talked about a whole lot. Also, the Spurs, just as a team, kind of fly under the radar, even though they're in playoff contention every single year. I think that this contract is a bit of a steal for the Spurs. $64 million over 4 years is not that much for a player who seems to be his caliber moving forward. I really like this guy, and I really like this team.
I do too. Again, me and David, we were afraid to not put the Spurs in our Western Conference playoff prediction.
Had to do it.
I can't bet against the Spurs. I can't do that. I'll be the one who's late on the party in terms of saying the dynasty's over or their playoff run's over. I'm not going to be the one that makes that bold prediction that it'll end. So now we're going to, last guy to get kind of a not max deal, but an extension, Taurean Prince. He got traded from Atlanta to Brooklyn, signs just a 2-year, $29 million extension. Do you think he could be a true impact player for the Nets this season?
I really like this guy. I think he was a good, high, energetic player for the Hawks. And now that he's on the Nets, I like the 2-year deal because you don't sign this guy for 4 or 5 years. You're not
not selling your soul.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that $29 million is a modest number for 2 years. He got his money, but they're also not tied down to him for a really long time. And he's one of those high energy guys that you want to put around Kyrie Irving. So I definitely like the moves from the Brooklyn Nets. What do you think?
Yeah, the Nets' former front office, they didn't know what luxury tax and cap space was, and that's why they traded for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. Now they're making smarter acquisitions, keeping the price tag open, and
learn from your mistakes.
Signing
man.
guys like Kyrie and KD are in their primes right now. So let's start off with the opening night games. That was Tuesday night. First game, the Toronto Raptors hosted the Zionless New Orleans Pelicans. Probably didn't get as many ratings as the NBA would have liked. Nevertheless, though, the Raptors walk out of overtime with the win, 130-122. They get their championship rings. They had the whole ring ceremony. Those rings looked really cool, honestly. They always do. And obviously, they get the win over the Pelicans. How do you think both these teams looked without their star players, being no Zion for New Orleans and then the obvious no Kawhi Leonard for the Raptors?
Hunter, I was really impressed with the Toronto Raptors having Kawhi left. Danny Green is not there anymore. Two of their top players, and those two have played together on the Spurs in the past. So I think the Raptors wanted to come out, make a statement in this game, showed that, hey, we just won the championship. We deserve our respect. And they came out and played really hard. Pascal Siakam, amazing performance. We talked about him earlier. 34 points, 18 boards. Fred VanVleet dropped 34 points along with 7 assists. We talked about him on the show as well. And Kyle Lowry had a strong performance with 22. OG Anunoby is back. I really like the Raptors, and I think I might have made a mistake in leaving them out of my playoff seedings because the Toronto Raptors are still here.
Yeah, I love the Raptors. Obviously, I've been the Raptors stan of the NBA podcast world, I guess. But anyway, yeah, they looked really good. Pascal Siakam fouled out, and then you're like, oh no, like he just fouled out right before overtime, or it was like right during overtime, like the start of it, and you're like, oh no, I don't know if the Raptors can close this one out. But Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry made some clutch shots as he always does. It's gonna be interesting with that point guard situation because Fred VanVleet is on a contract year. And he's definitely good enough to get starter money and to be a starter. But at the same time, the Raptors do have Kyle Lowry. So you wonder, do they blow it all up and just try acquiring young players and draft picks? Or do they, keep the course and, trust that their current team and their current management and coaching can, cause damage in the East?
So, Hunter, how do you feel about the Pelicans' performance in that game? Because I heard there was a little controversy. Lonzo Ball started out the game really well, and he actually got benched in the fourth quarter. How do you feel about that?
That was interesting, David. I was very surprised to see that. They put J.J. Redick and they put Josh Hart, who both were hitting big shots in the end of the game, so I understand. And then there was like Drew Holiday was in there, Brandon Ingram, and I think Melly, who's kind of like their stretch five, was also in there. It's going to be interesting. I wonder if shooting was the concern there, because obviously historically Lonzo's not a great shooter. And he's a great defender, so you could have him out there for defense. You're not going to worry about him getting burned. But can he knock down open shots? And that's always been the question of Lonzo's game, has been his shooting. That's always been the issue. I think he's progressively getting better, but he wasn't there yet. And I guess Alvin Gentry just rolled with the five that he thought had the best chance to win the game.
Yeah, it to me, the way Lonzo came out in the beginning of that game, it looked like he's really shooting with confidence now. He just stepped right up and he's taking these big shots. So I was a little surprised to see him get benched. He did get thrown in there in overtime when, he was needed. But I don't know, because like I said, this is adding to Lonzo's confidence, but then getting benched in the fourth quarter cannot help his confidence. So we'll see what the Pelicans do moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to go to the second game of the night, which was the Clippers. They did take game one in the Battle of LA over the Lakers, score 112-102. David, let me ask you, what were the keys to the Clippers win?
So Kawhi Leonard, obviously, he had a really strong game. He was the MVP of that game. Without Paul George, Kawhi absolutely stepped up, and they played great defense. I got to say, Patrick Beverley is so annoying. If you have Patrick Beverley guarding you, man, you're going to have a long night. Let me tell you that. So I think the Clippers played well as a team, and the Lakers still have some figuring out to do. What do you think?
Yeah, you hit it on the nail there. I think with a great move by Doc Rivers on his part, the game changed when Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell entered the game. It was 8:30 into the first quarter,
Lou.
And I think the Lakers were up by 13 at one point in the first quarter. Their size really showed against for the most part, small Clippers team, and the bench outscored the Lakers 60-19. That's ridiculous. And it wasn't just Lou and Montrezl Harrell getting the job done. Mo Harkless had some big moments. So did JaMychal Green hitting some threes as well. Again, Kawhi Leonard was automatic. He had 30 points. It looked pretty easy for him out there. And the second quarter was really what really changed this game. The Clippers had 40 points in the second quarter, and they were 12 of 13 at one point to start out the second quarter. That is basically automatic, and part of it's bad defense, but to be fair, there are some really good tough shot makers on this Clippers team.
Absolutely, without question. And once Paul George comes back, it's going to be even more so in that sense. So watch out for the Clippers. The Lakers have their work cut out for them, but I think the Lakers have the talent to figure it out, and I think they'll be able to beat this Clippers team next time around.
Yeah, there are moves to be made, David, absolutely. I think the one thing I was really shocked about was that we saw basically, and I don't know if it's because the Clippers did a good job personnel-wise, and they may have, but I saw basically no pick-and-roll action between LeBron and Anthony Davis. We talked about how lethal that was going to be, but basically it was just LeBron bringing up the court and chucking it down to Anthony Davis and just ball watching. And Anthony Davis had 25 points. I mean, they were gassed. Both LeBron and AD were absolutely gassed in the fourth quarter. They couldn't hit a lick at all. And then the Clippers just, took it over. I mean, Danny Green was the saving grace on that team. He had 28 points. And the Lakers basically just wasted a Danny Green 28-point game. And I was also just being, I'm a Laker fan, and I've watched all the preseason games, and I was just like, where's Alex Caruso? He didn't log a single minute.
Unbelievable.
That's ridiculous. Like, Alex Caruso, they need a point guard to come in and, increase the tempo. The Lakers played so slow last night, and they need it could be Rondo. He also didn't play, but they need a point guard out there, a guy who can facilitate and make plays, and I just don't understand why Frank Vogel didn't trust, Alex Caruso, the big, mean machine he is, to come in and, kind of propel the Lakers over the Clippers.
Yeah, before we move on to the next topic, I totally feel your frustration with the Lakers. You would think that they would call more designed plays, especially between LeBron and AD. And the fact that they play KCP all these minutes and he came away with 0 points, I think Jared Dudley also had a pathetic plus-minus as well.
Yeah, he did.
You really hate to see it if you're a Lakers fan.
You absolutely hate to see it. Yeah, I think we need more pick and rolls on that LeBron-AD front. And just the in-game adjustments. I mean, Doc Rivers is a great coach, but Frank Vogel's got to do a little bit better. He burned his challenge because, now they have the challenge in the NBA.
All the coaches are burning them early.
In the first quarter, it was over they did take off 3 points because it was an and one from Lou Williams potentially, and then they didn't say it was an and one. It was just a side out, so the bucket didn't count because they said it was like a reach-in foul. But, I don't know. I think it's smart just to kind of keep that till the end. They're they think they can just get it back. And you burn a timeout when you use it as well. So, anyway, we're going to go to the Wednesday night games. There was 11 of them, a lot. We're not going to talk about all 11, but we're going to talk about some of the key ones, some of the ones that stood out to me and David. So, David, give us your first game that really caught your eye.
So, the Sixers beat the Celtics. That's the game that really caught my eye. I was watching the whole game. Pretty much, I am super happy with the way the Sixers played defense in this game. I know it was against the Celtics, and they have a lot of new faces, a lot of young faces, and they're getting it together. But you look at the Sixers, not only their starting five, but the whole team, everyone was D'ing up. Tobias Harris was playing good defense. Joel Embiid was blocking shots. The rookie, Matisse Thybulle, was bothering Kemba Walker all night long. And Josh Richardson, he's a dog, and he just brings that energy all night. We know Ben Simmons can defend, and he's got great size. So I think even though the Sixers really struggled shooting, they were able to handily beat the Celtics because their defense was so strong.
Their defense was really strong. I think two things were kind of shown in this game. The Sixers' tremendous size and the lack of it from the Celtics. The Celtics are basically all perimeter, and they can't really box out and beef up down low, whereas the Sixers are going to expose you. I mean, they have a 6'10" point guard, in Ben Simmons. And then you got, basically two centers out there you're rolling out with Al Horford and Joel Embiid. And Tobias Harris ain't small either. He's basically a stretch forward, but he's playing small forward for them. So, yeah, the Sixers they're a true contender, not just in the East, but it's a legit title contender. Wouldn't be shocked if they have the best record in the NBA this year at all. And at the end of the day, there's just so much talent. So I'm going to go... although the Nets lost in overtime 127 to 126 to the Timberwolves,
crazy game.
Kyrie Irving was absolutely insane. I think he kind of reminded everybody why he was, again, a second-team All-NBA player last year, why he's one of the best players and one of the best closers in the NBA.
Yeah, Kyrie made an absolute statement last night. I don't think that anyone has ever scored more playing for a new team in their debut for that team. I think 50 points from Kyrie was that record. And I was checking the box score because I was watching the Sixers game at the same time. I watched Kyrie just getting points, and no one else was really doing anything until the second half on his team. So it's crazy to see that they battled back, and it's tough that they weren't able to come away with that win. And it makes you wonder, how did the Timberwolves score 127 points?
Well, Karl Anthony Towns had a great game. He had 36 and 14, with all due respect. He was hitting shots all over the place. I feel like with the Timberwolves, we always, trash on them, not just us, but people in general. But, I think it's like Karl Anthony Towns is so good. He sucks defensively. He is absolutely garbage. But offensively, he is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, Capella ate him alive in that playoff series.
That's true.
Yeah, so it would be nice
point.
to see Karl Anthony Towns step it up defensively. But what about Andrew Wiggins?
Oh my God, yeah, Andrew Wiggins is this. He probably shouldn't listen to this podcast. Me and David are very critical of him. He shot 10 to 20. He hit 2 big shots in overtime that kind of sealed the game. So I'll give credit where credit's due. He shot 10 to 27 from the field. His plus minus, granted the Timberwolves won by 1. His plus minus was under 26. How is that even possible?
Oh my goodness.
Like they won by a point, and his plus minus was negative 26.
That's very inefficient. You do not want to see that if you are a Timberwolves fan.
I get plus minus. A lot of it has to do with, situation and if you're on a good or bad team. But when you win and your plus minus as a starter was that bad, like that does raise eyebrows. I mean, he was complaining about not being ranked the top 100 player by whatever list this year. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, funny stuff. You don't know what you're going to get from the Timberwolves. They can dominate in the regular season, and so far they've flamed out in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year coming off their first win.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to watch the Nets. I mean, obviously, I'm from Long Island, and, we got the Yes Network. That's where the Nets play on. So I can actually, maybe watch a couple games. Kyrie is one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. So I definitely will have to tune into some Net games when I get back for Thanksgiving break and stuff like that. Now, one game that kind of, I thought was interesting was this Phoenix Suns actually won an opening game. I don't know. I thought they beat the Kings 124-95 pretty handily. Devin Booker looked really good. He had 22 points, 10 assists. I mean, he was dropping dimes. Ricky Rubio fit in really well also. And, there's a big game from the Phoenix Suns. I mean, David, were you surprised to see the Suns win this big against the Kings that are trying to really make a name for themselves?
I really have to say, Hunter, I was surprised when I checked the box score and saw that the Suns won so big. Like you said, Devin Booker, he did his thing. We know how talented he is. DeAndre Ayton, we'd like to see him step up and have a really big year. And they added Kelly Oubre too, which is a nice piece. So I think this Suns team, they can do a little something this year. I think they can build on some of those skill players they have, because let's be honest, they have some good players.
They do have good players, and they got better too. I loved watching that Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton pick and roll. It was just something else. Like, DeAndre Ayton finally looked engaged in the offense. That's why I said he was one of the most underrated players, because I'm like, this Suns team does not use him right. But credit to Monty Williams. He got his first win as the Suns head coach, so good for him. I was also really confused because De'Aaron Fox, a player that I love, I know you're really high on him as well, he only shot the ball 7 times in that game. And I get he's a point guard and he's trying to pass, but if you want to be that dude, you want to be an all-star, how do you only shoot the ball 7 times?
Yeah, if you are De'Aaron Fox, you got to shoot the ball more than 7 times. I understand you want to take good shots and have good shot selection, get to your spots, but look, if you're De'Aaron Fox, you're the type of guy who can take over a game, and he did not do it last night, and it's a big reason why they lost by 20-plus points. You would expect more from De'Aaron next time. Definitely.
Also, another key player that actually is going to be down for a while is Marvin Bagley. It was just reported, I think, about less than an hour from where we're filming or recording right now for this podcast, he fractured his thumb in that game. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and for a team that I don't love their bench, that is a big loss for an up-and-coming player like Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, the Kings are going to be majorly adjusting without the services of Marvin Bagley. I'm sure he was a huge part of their plans. So they're going to have to figure it out here for the next, what did you say, 8 weeks he's out?
4 to 6 weeks is
4
projected.
to 6 weeks. That's kind of a long time. So they're going to have to adjust and figure it out without him for now. And then obviously it'll be really good for them when he comes back, but hopefully the Kings can get it together here without Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, David, can you give us another game that kind of caught your eye last night?
So another game that caught my eye last night was the Miami Heat and the Memphis Grizzlies, mainly because the Heat had a very good team win, and Jimmy Butler wasn't even there. I believe his significant other was having a child, so he had to not play for personal reasons.
Come on, Jimmy, play. No,
it's all right. Cut the guy
There's 82
slack.
games. There's 82 games.
Yeah, so really like what I'm seeing from this Miami Heat squad. I'm really high on Coach Spoelstra. I love that they gave him an extension. So Justice Winslow, he stepped up last night, and he's able to play that point guard position too and distribute the ball, not only be a shooting guard or even a small forward at his size. Josh Richardson leaves, goes to the Sixers. This guy Nunn steps in, who I've never heard of until about a week ago, and he dropped 40 points in the preseason. He had a strong game last night. I believe he had 24 points on pretty efficient shooting, and Goran Dragic also had a strong game too, so you got to give the Miami Heat credit. They did play against the Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies are a young, talented team. I'm really high on Ja Morant. He's actually my pick for Rookie of the Year, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is getting better and better, so great team win for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, this game was a lot of fun to watch. It was a great win. They went on a 24-1 run in the fourth quarter, which is absolutely insane. They really opened up this lead. This Grizzlies team, they're not going to win a lot of games, but they're so much fun to watch. I love Brandon Clark. Ja Morant had a okay opening debut.
Yeah.
Didn't look bad. He looked like he belonged out there for sure. Jaren Jackson is, oh my God.
He's the real deal.
He's a real deal. This guy is absolutely insane. A 7-footer that can put the ball on the ground, block shots, shoots threes, can move all over the place. You know, Justice Winslow, again, I don't know how they figured that out, that he's really a point guard low-key. Again, he's a great ball handler, but, like, it was really interesting to see, like, how Eric Spoelstra came up with that one, but credit to him because it works. Tyler Hero, I thought, looked pretty good in his opening rookie debut, especially starting. I don't know if he's going to be the official starter. I think he will be, even when Jimmy Butler gets back. I think they can play together, and I think he'll play really well off of Jimmy Butler. David, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm really high on Tyler Hero. He absolutely shook Grayson Allen out of his shoes with nothing more than a jab step, which is amazing. That means Allen respects his dribble, and you got to respect his first step. He's not just a jump shooter. Tyler Hero can get buckets. It'll be interesting to see what they do once Jimmy returns to the lineup. But this team's pretty deep, and I think they have a solid bench, too, depending on like what their rotation looks like.
He is a professional bucket getter. Another guy who is also a professional bucket getter is Andre Drummond. His historic night, it was insane. So the Pistons beat the Indiana Pacers, a interdivision rivalry right there, 119-110. Andre Drummond finished with, and I'm not kidding, this was his stat line, 32 points and 23 rebounds. That is the first 30-20 game, opening night game, since Charles Barkley did it in 1992. Watching Andre Drummond, he's in the best shape of his life. He's running up and down the floor. He's grabbing rebounds, going coast to coast, hitting people with a hezzy Euro step, finishing at the basket. I thought that Andre Drummond, that is as good of an opening night game as I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love Andre Drummond, and he really stepped up, too, with Blake Griffin out last night, so you really got to give Drummond credit. And one thing that people always used to say about him is he's among, or if not, the worst free throw shooter in the NBA. He has improved that a lot.
Yes. And
you got to give him credit. The guy works so hard, and I think he's worth every penny that they give him.
Yeah, and you know he is on a contract year this year, so this is going to be his final year of his current deal. We'll see if either the Pistons want him or another team wants him.
Pay the man.
Yeah, I think he's going to get his money, especially in a weak free agency class that's expected to be this upcoming year. Andre Drummond is one of the stars of that free agency class. Also, Luka Kennard at 30 points off the bench, like, Jesus Christ.
I know. Where did this guy come from?
Where did he come from? And I thought Miles Turner, again, David, I know you love him, so do I. He looked awesome. This dude was literally hitting, like, step-back threes, and he's a 7-footer. Like, how is that even possible now?
Yeah, I ask myself that question all the time with so many big men in the league now. They're all shooting threes. It's really unbelievable. So credit to Miles Turner. If he can really turn that offensive game up to the next level, we know how good of a defender he is. He can be a really solid player.
Yeah, and the Pacers will definitely need it as Victor Oladipo still, ailing his ACL injury.
That's right.
So, David, what is the last game to wrap up this Wednesday night slate for us here?
So moving on, we have a Western Conference matchup, a close one where the Nuggets beat the Trailblazers 108-100, and you got to give credit to the Nuggets. This is not very different from last year. They had 5 different guys score in double figures, and it was just a great team win all around. Jokic was the high man with 20 points. Barton had 19. Jamal Murray 14, 5, and 6. So you really gotta give this team credit, and it could be a preview of a playoff matchup. We saw the Nuggets and the Blazers play last year. It went to 7 games. We could see them face off again in the playoffs this year, so I love watching this matchup. These are two Western Conference teams that are not talked about as much as maybe the Lakers or the Clippers or even the Rockets of the world, but look out for the Nuggets. You don't want to go to Denver and play that team on the road. They're really hard to beat.
Both these teams are so good at home, honestly, and this is kind of a budding rivalry in my opinion. I feel like the NBA was really smart putting that on a Wednesday night ESPN game. They're trying to build something up here. Again, went into 7 games. What an awesome playoff series. That was so much fun to watch. Could have went either way. And yeah, this was a close game. I was really impressed with how Hassan Whiteside looked. He looked like he's in as good a shape. And he, I think, had like 17 and like 15 around there. He looked really good out there. Again, we all know how good Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are and the consistency that they bring. Nuggets are so deep. And David was saying before, they didn't even play Michael Porter Jr. David was a little upset about that before we started recording, but that just shows you how good the Nuggets are, where they don't even have to rely on a guy like that just yet, and they can really, not have to rush him back. Because if Michael Porter is anything we think he could be, especially this year, this Nuggets team gets another extra boost.
Yeah, the Nuggets are such a deep team, but hey, give the man some minutes. Let's see Michael Porter. Let's see what he can do. Let the man get some minutes. He's really going to give this team that extra boost, I think.
Yep, definitely. And right now, it is currently Thursday night while we're recording this, so whenever you're hearing this, there's a good chance these games are over already, but as of now, we're going to talk about them anyway. The primetime matchups on TNT. First off, we got the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Houston Rockets. We got the reunion, if you will, of James Harden and Russell Westbrook. We got the reigning MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo, and basically the runner-up, James Harden as well. A lot of star power in this game. David, what can we look forward to here?
Hunter, I absolutely love this matchup, and I think that Harden is really offended that he didn't win the MVP last year.
He didn't even show up to the awards.
Yeah, let's be honest. Harden is not happy that Giannis took home that reward last year. And I even heard Giannis say, hey, I'm not going to say that I'm better than James Harden, but the trophy is in my house, which I absolutely love. So I hope that these two absolutely go at it tomorrow night. And it's not going to be a one-on-one game. I think both of these teams are really strong, and they will both be towards the top of their conference at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely. This should be a fun game to watch. We'll catch as much as we possibly can because it's probably going on as we're recording this right now. But also, an interesting point. So Giannis, it was rumored, I don't know where the rumors came from, but he's apparently has had some frustration with the Milwaukee Bucks front office.
That's right.
He said that, hey, if this team underperforms, I'm not afraid to leave. And earlier today, he said that that's not true, and I don't know, I never said those words. So, David, what do you make of that? Like, I was like a little like, wow, it seemed like Giannis was all in, but that's an interesting comment if it's true.
Yeah, I didn't. You just said that second part. I didn't know that he denied saying that, but I don't want to say I dislike him saying that because this puts pressure on the Bucks to really play well this year. Mm-hmm. And they played great. They played as great as I think they could have last year. And you got to appreciate what they did last year. I know that they lost to Toronto and the series didn't go the way they wanted it to, but I understand if Giannis said that because this year they have really no excuses. They're the favorites in their conference. They're expected to win the East. So if they come up short, I won't be surprised if Giannis starts looking around other ways.
I'll say this, the chip on his shoulder is bigger than his ego, 100%. Giannis, I think, just kind of wants it more than everybody else.
He wants to win.
He wants to win. He comes from the school of Kobe, the school of MJ in that sense, where it's by any means necessary, get the job done. Now the second West Coast game right here, it's going to be the Clippers taking on the Golden State Warriors, a very new look for both teams. These teams had very different off seasons. So let me ask you, David, do you think the Warriors can defend home court? This is going to be their first official home game in San Francisco now because, they moved. They're no longer playing in Oracle anymore. Do you think the Warriors can potentially shut down the Clippers here? Or you think the Clippers are going to keep the hot hand riding?
Hunter, I'm rolling with the Clippers on this 100%. I don't think the Warriors are going to win this basketball game.
I don't either, because I think the Clippers are they figured it out already with Kawhi Leonard. It's kind of crazy how they're just able to just fit him right into what they already had. I think that was the idea with keeping and retaining a lot of the same players from last season. And the Clippers, I will say this, the Warriors aren't very big, and nor are the Clippers, so this won't be a huge issue. It'll be interesting to see Montrezl Harrell just absolutely dominate the glass, which I think he probably will. The Warriors are a pretty good offensive team. Like, I trust Steph Curry and D'Angelo Russell to get the job done, but their defense sucks. I think they're going to be one of the worst defensive teams in the league, especially without Clay.
Yeah, Hunter, I'm looking forward to the matchup between Harrell, like you said, and I think Draymond Green is going to have his work cut out for him, trying to match up with him. That's going to be really tough. And if I'm Steph Curry, I am really not looking forward to playing against Beverly. Like I said, Patrick Beverly is going to be on him like white on rice, and it is going to be a long night for Steph. But Steph is not alone. You just reminded me that they do also have D'Angelo Russell, first-time All-Star last year. I think Russell wants to have a big debut for the Warriors.
Absolutely. I think Steph Curry, I made the prediction that he'll lead the league in scoring this year. I really do believe that. I think
Could happen.
I think the Warriors are going to be all offense, no defense, so shoot till the wheels fall off. And I love the white on rice analogy. Great job, David. Now we're going to go to the Friday night games. We're going to talk about the two marquee ones. So first, we got the Mavericks and the Pelicans. This game was expected to be a lot more exciting with Zion Williamson. That's why all these Pelican games are on national TV. But unfortunately, Zion's going to be out for quite some time. 6 to 8 weeks is his recovery expected time. But that being said, I still think it's going to be a lot of fun because Luka Doncic is a beast. Kristaps Porzingis is coming into his own. And I think the Pelicans are at home. They're in the Smoothie King. And they also got a pretty good team anyway. So, David, what do you expect in this Western Conference matchup here?
Hunter, I got to roll with the Mavericks to keep it going, and I think the Pelicans are going to drop their second game. I really like what the Mavericks have going. The duo between Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, I think it could become the best duo in the league within the next couple of years. And it's not like those are the only two guys they have. I think Jalen Brunson was a great pickup too for them in the draft a couple years ago. So I'm rolling with the Mavericks in this game. I think the Pelicans still have some things to figure out. Not only is Zion missing, but like I said, they benched Lonzo in the fourth quarter. What's up with that? And the Pelicans, they have the talent, but they got to put it together, and I want to see Brandon Ingram play well again like he did in the first game.
Yeah, he did play really well in the first game as well. You're absolutely right. I think this is going to be a fun, exciting game, definitely to say the least. I just love watching Luka Doncic play. He's one of my favorite players just to watch.
He's nice.
And then Kristaps Porzingis is like a man in his own lane. Like a 7'3" guy who moves and shoots like he does is very rare. But let me just say this, because I've been hearing a lot on these NBA podcasts, like the Bill Simmons podcast and the NBA Ringer and stuff like that, and everyone keeps bringing up this point: who's the Mavericks' third best player? And then everyone's using that as the reason that they're not going to make the playoffs. And I don't think that's the sole reason. I think Kristaps Porzingis needs to be fully healthy 100% for them to make the playoffs. And I think it's very reasonable because I think Luka Doncic is going to be that dude this year. I think he's also a lock to make the All-Star game, especially, showing out right out of the gate with 34 against the Wizards. So, David, let me ask you, who's the third best player on the Mavericks?
Hunter, that's a tough one. I really don't know. They have, 5 different guys who you could consider the third best player. Dude, I really don't know at all. What do you think?
I was thinking either Tim Hardaway Jr. or Seth Curry. Yeah,
I like the Tim Hardaway pick. I think Tim Hardaway is solid, and he can definitely put the ball on the floor and get you some points.
Yeah.
Didn't he average over 20 points a game last year?
He was close. He was around 18-ish, and I think it could have went up to 20, when he got traded to the Mavericks, of course. Again, I love the fit there. I think, again, I put him on my all underrated team because I just feel like he doesn't get talked about a bunch. But, the Mavericks are an interesting team. Even if they don't make the playoffs, I think they'll just be a lot of fun to watch. Now, the next game, the 10:30 slate, I think these are two teams that I think we both agree are locks probably to make the playoffs. That is the Utah Jazz taking on the Lakers. Now it's a home game for the Lakers, even though it was in Staples Center against the Clippers. Again, the Lakers came off kind of an game against the Clippers. They could have looked a lot better. The Jazz picked up the win against the OKC Thunder. Donovan Mitchell, I think, had 32, so pretty good first game for him. How do you expect this matchup to come out? Do you think the Jazz, keep it rolling, or do you think the Lakers can bounce back here?
Hunter, this one's really tough for me. I was back and forth on this one, but I think the Lakers are going to figure it out. I think the Jazz are going to lose this game in LA. I think LeBron and the Lakers are going to adjust, and they're going to take a look at the tape from the first game. I think the Lakers match up better against the Jazz than they did against the Clippers, and I really like the Lakers' chances in this one.
Yeah, I think definitely the Clippers are a better team than the Jazz. The Jazz is still really good. I think it's going to be an awesome game, a lot of fun to watch. Be sure to check it out. I think the Lakers will play better. I think they'll make their adjustments. I'm not sure who's going to win. I'll lean with the Lakers in this home game, but I would not be shocked at all if the Jazz win. It seems like that Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell backcourt is legit. Can't forget how good of a defender Rudy Gobert is, perhaps the best in the NBA. And yeah, I think LeBron, he's just, as long as he can just score, and we'll see if Rondo comes back tomorrow and he starts at point guard.
Quit passing it so much, LeBron.
I know, LeBron, be selfish every once in a while.
You can still get buckets. Go get buckets on this team because you can do it.
LeBron can get 9-10 assists without trying. I was saying this earlier, don't force him to be a point guard. I get him handling the ball in late game situations because that's when the game slows down. But I think what happened with the Lakers is against the Clippers figured it out. They got overwhelmed with the size right out the gate. It was clearly an issue. The Jazz are actually kind of small. Outside of Gobert, you have Bojan Bogdanovic probably starting at 4. So someone's going to have to guard Anthony Davis, and that is going to be a nightmare matchup for the Utah Jazz, because Anthony Davis definitely got his for at least 3 quarters against the Clippers till he got gassed out. And yeah, the Lakers LeBron and AD cannot flame out in the fourth quarter like that. I don't know if it's just because they got a lot of minutes. I really don't know, but that can't happen because then they're not going to win games if the 2 best players can't close.
Yeah, if you're Coach Vogel or whoever decided to put LeBron at point guard, at least run some plays for him and Anthony Davis. Don't just have him bring the ball down and then figure it out on the go. Yeah, he's creative and he can do that, but for a whole entire basketball game, look, you got to draw up some plays for the guy.
Yeah, and again, a lot of players, in my opinion, on the Lakers did not really step up against the Clippers.
KCP.
Danny Green balled out.
Oh, yeah.
I highly doubt he's going to play like that the whole season. If he does, he's an all-star. But if not, I still think he'll be really valuable. I think the Lakers need Kyle Kuzma back. They need that guy, that spark plug scorer that if LeBron and or AD aren't on the court, someone can get you a bucket. We all know Kuzma's that guy. He was bred to score. And so, yeah, I think that the Lakers will miss him a little bit while he's out with the foot injury. But nevertheless, I think you got to trust the Lakers, and they're a veteran team that they'll figure it out. And again, they did look good in the preseason, and it just didn't work against, to be fair, a very good Clippers team.
Come back, Kuz. They need you, man. They need you.
Yep, and last but not least, it's kind of become a thing on our podcast, Ball Don't Lie, where we give our all-NBA teams. We kind of come up with fun scenarios here. So this year, we're going to be predicting the 2019-2020 all-NBA comeback team. So me and David each compiled a list. Anonymous. We did not tell each other who's on our list. I feel like we may have some reoccurring names, though, because I'm sure
we have to.
We have to here. We each pick 5 players who we think will have comeback seasons. So that can include them being out and just injured. It could be a coaching change, a team change, or maybe they just had a bad year and they stunk up the joint, and now this year they're going to be real good. So, David, can you give your first player on your list?
My first guy on my list for my all-NBA comeback team is Mr. Jason Tatum on the Boston Celtics.
Ooh, I almost put him on, but I didn't because I put a different Celtic on my team.
Okay. So we talked about, earlier I mentioned how strong of a rookie year he had. Even in the playoffs, he played great. He dunked on LeBron as a rookie. Never forget that. I'm sure he has a poster of it in his house.
Probably.
So last year, he really it seemed like he took a step back. They disappointed. I know Kyrie is a reason for that. They had chemistry issues last year that just didn't do as well as the year before. But I have Tatum as this guy. I think he's going to bounce back this year. And the Celtics lost Al Horford too. So I'm not saying that Tatum is going to be the leader on this team, but I think Tatum is the guy on the Celtics moving forward. He has the most potential, and I think he's really going to come into his own and have a strong year. I think he could average over 20-plus points a game easily.
I definitely think he could average over 20-plus points easily. I mean, again, he's just a bucket getter. That guy just scores flat out. Again, another School of Kobe guy as well, looked up to.
Of course.
The Black Mamba himself. I will say this, though. Jason Tatum's shot selection was just so bad last year. He kept shooting long twos. And I'm sure Daryl Morey of the Houston Rockets was just like, that's not how it works today. But anyway, yeah, I think Jason Tatum definitely could be in for a big year. Like I said earlier, I do have a Boston Celtic on my list that's not Jason Tatum. It's Gordon Hayward. It's his second year off, the catastrophic injury he had. And I think he's, we kind of saw Paul George had an equally devastating injury, and it took him a little bit to finally get into a groove. I think Gordon Hayward, he had 25 points in that game. I know that the Sixers handled them, but Gordon Hayward showed up and played really well. He looks like he's in phenomenal shape, as good as he's looked. And yeah, I think Gordon Hayward's in for a big year, and he's played for Brad Stevens before at Butler.
That's right.
They go back, and I think someone brought up a really interesting point. It may have been Ryan Rosillo, the famous ESPN NBA voice. He said that Gordon Hayward may play some point guard this year for the Celtics, and he's very capable. He's a phenomenal passer. He's terrific in the pick and roll. I think they're going to use him in a lot of different ways. I think he'll be more successful this time around because Gordon Hayward is healthier and another year with the Celtics organization. They're paying him all that money. I figure they're going to play and give him minutes,
Yeah, it'll be really interesting with the Celtics. Like I just said, Tatum, you just mentioned Hayward, and Brown. All three of those guys are like 6'8".
Yeah,
and they're all
big.
Talented wing players, so it'll be really interesting to see what they bring.
Let me say, if Kemba Walker is what he is, all-star lock, basically, Jason Tatum takes a big step forward, and Gordon Hayward can kind of be reminiscent of the Gordon Hayward of old when he was with the Utah Jazz. Like, this Celtics team's ceiling just goes up a whole nother level.
Yeah, absolutely. The Celtics have tons of potential. It's just a matter of who goes where and who plays what role. So we'll see what happens with them moving forward.
David, who else made your all-comeback team?
All right, my next guy is Phoenix Sun Devin Booker.
Ooh.
I think that he is going to step it up this year, and he's sick and tired of losing.
He is.
Because let's be honest, they have lost a lot in the last couple years. So I'm rolling with Devin Booker as my next All-NBA comeback team member. I think that he can average over 25 points a game. This man dropped 70 points in one game on the Celtics on the road.
And they still lost.
Yeah, they still lost. So it's not Devin Booker's fault. And we talked about the pick and roll game he had going with Ayton last night. So I really think that Devin Booker is going to make a jump this year and be a phenomenal, not only scorer, but overall player. Like we said, he had double-digit assists. I don't think that was an accident.
It was definitely not an accident. He's definitely getting better at all aspects of the game. He figures he has to pass a lot because he's going to get double-teamed so much. But let me ask you this, David, because I thought Devin Booker individually had a great year last year. Do you think that by putting him on your list, are you banking on the fact that the Suns are definitely going to take a jump? I'm not saying playoffs, but they'll take a jump and be better as well.
Yeah, there's no way that the Suns are the worst team in the league again this year. There's just no way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I understand Booker probably did have pretty good numbers last year, but it didn't equate to any wins. I think that he's the type of guy to make the players around him better, and I think that this year that's going to happen, especially with Ayton coming into his second year. You have Kelly Oubre having a full offseason with this team, and I really think that the Suns are going to improve. Maybe not make the playoffs this year, but they will improve.
Yeah, definitely, to say the least. I do think that the Suns will be better, and a player that I have also on my list, not Devin Booker, but a player that's going to be on a bad team, but I think he's actually going to put up some pretty nice numbers potentially, is Terry Rozier. It was a little awkward with him last year in the Celtics. Because Kyrie's the guy, and he knew it, and it was like you knew Terry Rozier wasn't going to re-sign there, so he's basically not all in. Now, I know the Hornets are bad, but I think he'll be all in. He's going to get all the shots he wants, all the opportunity in the world he wants. They did beat the Bulls. I think that was a good win for them. They looked good in that game. And yeah, I think Terry Rozier, we saw Kemba Walker as the lead guard there, put up big numbers. And I'm not saying he's going to put up Kemba Walker numbers. He's the all-time leading scorer in Hornets history, but I think Terry Rozier can definitely, live up somewhat to that big contract.
Yeah, I'm really high on Terry Rozier. I think the guy's an absolute beast. He can get his own shot. He can just absolutely get buckets and put dudes on skates. I'm a big fan of Terry. Scary Terry, that is.
Scary Terry.
Yeah, that's right. It's spooky season. So shout out to Scary Terry.
Oh, my God. Wait. I have to cut you off here.
We have a development.
We have a breaking news story, and it's a Woj Bomb live on the show. Let's go. Oh, my God.
Let's hear it.
DeAndre Ayton could be suspended 25 games for violating NBA's anti-drug policy.
Oh, my goodness. I did not see that coming.
He's a big boy. He's pretty big. He's like kind of Dwight Howard 2.0, so I wouldn't be shocked if he broke it, but oh, my God.
Take back everything I said 2 minutes ago. No, I'm just kidding, but wow, that is actually totally out of nowhere. What a Woj bomb.
That's like a quarter of the season right there he'd be out for, more.
I wonder what he did.
Man, that's... Oh, I'm sorry I cut you off there, David. I'm literally just like, oh, my God.
No, thanks for cutting me off. Anytime a Woj Bomb comes around, feel free to cut me off because Woj Bombs are called Woj Bombs for a reason.
Yeah, geez, that's crazy. So
maybe the Suns won't improve that much this year. Who knows? Now Devin Booker is going to have to step it up even more. So maybe he'll score 30 a game. Who knows?
This is Robert Sarver's fault for being a terrible owner. This is all your fault. No, I'm just kidding.
The poor Suns.
But
during our show.
Yeah, so a player that I don't think, or maybe he will also get drug tested because he got a lot bigger in the offseason, but a player that made my All-NBA comeback team is Kristaps Porzingis. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty good pick here for the most part. Again, he missed all of last year with an ACL injury. Now he's in a much better situation. He's not with the stupid Knicks and James Dolan. Now he is with the Dallas Mavericks and Luka, the baby goat Doncic himself. I think Kristaps, he had 23 points in his opening debut with the Mavericks. Pretty solid for the most part, and I just think that, he's going to put up big boy numbers. He's going to pick up right where he left off. He's fully healthy, I think, for the most part. A full, more than a year recovery time for an ACL. They kept it very cautious with the Mavericks, and I think he will definitely, for the most part, just be a huge cornerstone, and I think him and Luka Doncic eventually could be the best duo in the NBA, give it a few years.
Hunter, I've told you how much I absolutely love Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn. The only good thing that Phil Jackson did in New York was draft Kristaps Porzingis, and I'll never forget for the rest of my life how he got booed on draft night.
I was there.
So bad. You were there.
Yeah,
and
it was bad.
all the Knicks fans booed Kristaps, and he is the only good thing to have come out of New York in recent time. So I love the guy. I'm sure he'll never forget getting booed on draft night, and I think he's in a 10 million times better situation now. So I'm so excited to see what he does this year.
I'm so excited. Again, Kristaps Porzingis really dodged a bullet getting away from the New York Knicks. Now, a guy who I'm not sure if he dodged a bullet or not, I think it could be the best with this new team, is Lonzo Ball. Also made my list. I know he didn't play in the overtime and late in the fourth quarter, so that was interesting. But I think he's going to have a really good year. I think the big thing with him is he's now healthy. He missed so many games. I don't know if it's because of the bad big baller brand shoes that fall apart every quarter, or
$500
or that. But I do think that Lonzo definitely is going to have a good year. It's a nice, fun, young Pelicans team, and I think that he's just definitely going to put up make a big impact on both ends of the floor. And I think Lonzo Ball, I'm rooting for him. He's so much fun to watch. He's probably the best, maybe the best. Up and down passer in the NBA. We saw it at UCLA. We saw it in his brief time with the Lakers, and I think it's going to continue with the Pelicans. I mean, him throwing lobs at Zion is going to be quite the spectacle.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier how it seems like now he's really shooting the ball with conviction, and his jump shot was a concern before. I think he's a top 5 passer in the NBA. He's one of the best passers I've seen. That no look he had the other night, it was disgusting.
Disgusting.
It was great. I think that we're about to see a lot more of that, and I'm totally in full understanding that Lonzo is going to have a bounce back year. I totally agree.
All right, David, who is numero cuatro on the list?
So, this is numero tres on my list. So I still have 3 more guys, but right now I'm rolling with Mike Conley to have a really big year this year. Similar to who I said before, it's not like he's had really small numbers when he was on the Grizzlies. Last year, he didn't have the best year. The Grizzlies didn't have the best year. It's not like they have Zebo anymore and they're a playoff team. Now the Grizzlies are rebuilding. Conley goes to the Jazz, and I think Conley's in a great situation. He has Donovan Mitchell as the shooting guard alongside him. Great all-around team, and I really feel like Coach Snyder is a candidate for Coach of the Year. He can really lead this team to probably be like a 4 or 3 seed in the West. And I think Mike Conley is going to be the head of that snake and lead this team all the way to the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. I love me some Mike Conley. He may be, he may go down as like the best player in the NBA. Maybe not history, but one of the best players in NBA history to never make an All-Star game.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how is that not possible? Like, this dude is been all NBA defense before, and he's not like he's muscular, but like he's only like 6 foot and he's not that athletic. So it's really interesting how he's just such a good defender, really smart guy. Again, we said or we didn't say it, but we talked about it on the show, how he was voted most likely to be a head coach of current NBA players, which was really interesting.
I find that so interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a huge, respect level from Mike
Absolutely.
Conley. You know, he's a great guy off the court as well. And since Hunter doesn't know how to count here, David, who is now your number 4 guy?
All right, number 4. Might be slightly biased this one. I'm a Sixer fan. I think Markelle Fultz is going to have a strong year this year and prove that he belongs in this league. He really does. Not just from the athletic standpoint, because we've seen him throw down some ferocious dunks. I think he's finally getting that confidence with his shot. I think he's going to become a better defender, and I think he has plenty of opportunity on the Orlando Magic. He also has other young players around him, such as Mo Bamba, who's also returning. So I think Markelle Fultz is finally going to have a normal NBA year this year. What do you think?
Do you know who also is on the Orlando Magic?
Who else?
It's our guy Jonathan Isaac, who had 6 points in the opening game. I'm like, oh no, we both picked up for most improved. Nah, it's
1 game.
One game.
One game.
Hey, that just shows you how good the Magic are. They got a lot of guys on that team. And they did beat the Cavs. I mean, granted, but nevertheless, I mean, win's a win. But yeah, I mean, Markelle Fultz. You know, I'm really rooting for the kid because his story is just really interesting and it kind of sad, but it's looking like I think he can definitely have a serviceable NBA career and, really find his niche because he's not just a shooter. He's good at a lot of other things, and actually when coming into the league, he was actually better at a lot of things. There's also the fact that he can shoot. His mid-range game is good. He gets to the basket. He passes. He plays defense. He's a really good shot blocker as well at the guard spot. He's big, strong. He can do all these other things as well. And for a guy who's probably going to be coming off the bench for them, you want guys that can do a little bit of everything, can kind of fit in. That's going to really help Steve Clifford and the coaching staff there down in Orlando.
Yeah, I think Fultz was a great pickup for this Magic team. They're a very interesting team, and I think he fits in perfectly. Like you said, he's coming off the bench. He doesn't have that pressure of, all the Philly fans watching him,
that's true.
making fun of him whenever he has a funny-looking jump shot. I think he's just going to play basketball, and he's going to continue to get better, and I think he'll have a strong year this year for the Magic, and I think that they could make the playoffs again, for sure.
Yeah, again, I had him in my playoffs. I think you also did have him in your playoffs.
I think I had them just squeezing in, maybe the 7 seed.
I was a little high on them, but all right, David, who's number 5 now on the list?
All right, my last one, former Defensive Player of the Year, 3-time champion. I have Draymond Green, who had a very lousy regular season last year. I think he has no choice but to have a way better regular season this year if the Warriors want to make the playoffs. That's right. He did play pretty well in the playoffs last year. You got to give him credit, but there's no Kevin Durant. There's no Klay Thompson this year. Draymond Green absolutely has to step up and have a very strong regular season, not just postseason. So expect Draymond Green to have a way better year this year, and that doesn't mean he'll be scoring 20-plus points a game. He's not a scorer, but he does all the little things that you want your players to do. He obviously is a very scrappy defender, and I think he's a big reason why the Warriors have won those 3 titles.
Couldn't agree with you more there on that point, David. Again, Draymond Green's kind of always been the glue guy, the heart and soul of the Golden State Warriors team. It's interesting because I feel like there's about 6 or so locks that people think are going to make, the playoffs this year. And the Warriors are one of those teams that are teetering on the outside. You kind of wonder. They're teetering. You kind of wonder, is this team going to get jumped by an up-and-coming Dallas team or an up-and-coming Pelicans team? Or can they squeak in? I have them as my 8 seed. I couldn't disrespect the Warriors. And I couldn't disrespect guys like Draymond Green and Steph Curry like that. So I do have them as my 8. I think you also had him right around there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I do think Draymond does need to step it up for 82 games, not just 16, 20 games. So yeah, definitely. And the last guy I have on my list, I think
who is it?
It's interesting why he's on the list, but I have Anthony Davis on my list.
Let's hear it.
Because you know what? It was a weird year for him last year. I mean, statistically, he was really good.
Fair.
That's not why he's on the list. It's just now he's got to prove it. You leave the Pelicans, they didn't really win without you, and that's understandably so, and I totally agree. They didn't put a great team around him per se, and he did the best he could. When they didn't make the playoffs, he always played terrific. He did sweep the Blazers two seasons ago. Also, they did get swept by the Warriors, but he also played really well in that series, both times they played the Warriors, so his playoff record's not that great. However, let me say that he has put all the pressure on himself to succeed in LA, and I think he's going to do it. I think he, on a national stage, game in and game out, is going to prove why he's that dude and why he's honestly arguably the best player in the NBA. Arguably.
I have two things to say about Anthony Davis, other than I love the guy. I think he's great. But he's never had this much talent around him before, so there's that. A lot less pressure on him. Well, there is that LA pressure, but in the sense that he has a lot more talent around him, there's less pressure in that aspect. And let's remember how he swept the Portland Trailblazers 2 years ago. A big reason for that is because Rondo was passing him the ball quite a bit, and now he's teammates with Rajon Rondo again. I think Rondo is one of the greatest passers of all time, one of the smartest players we've ever seen.
Yep.
And I know Rondo isn't playing at the capacity that he used to, but playoff Rondo is a thing. And I think that Rondo and Anthony Davis, maybe when LeBron is like sitting on the bench, because let's be honest, LeBron is not going to play every minute of every game at this point.
Yep.
I think Rondo and Anthony Davis is going to be an absolute tandem.
Yeah, again, hopefully the Lakers actually will use Anthony Davis in pick and roll. Again, Anthony Davis is not just a pick and roll player. Like he can do everything. Anthony Davis can do everything. The weird thing with Anthony Davis, when I was kind of watching him play with the Lakers, they're kind of using him like Kawhi Leonard, and it's like, look, I get maybe they're equally talented, but they're different players. Like, Kawhi Leonard can consistently hit, mid-range turnaround jumpers, like, because he's like more of a guard, like, or a wing. Anthony Davis has guard skills, but he's a big. So, use him like a big. Pick and rolls. Anthony Davis is super athletic and active around the basket. So that is going to wrap up this edition of Ball Don't Lie. Basketball's back. We can actually talk about...
It's back, baby!
We don't have to talk about training camp anymore, or media day, or preseason. That's all behind us now. Now we can talk actual basketball that's gonna matter, unless, you only think postseason basketball matters, but that's not how things work here. Otherwise, we would have our next show in like March. So
it's the best time of year.
Best time of year. A lot of different sports going on at the same time, but NBA, that's what we cover here, and that's our favorite sport to cover. So
no team gets left behind.
No team gets left behind. We talked about teams from the LA teams to the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets. So, we covered everybody. We talked about LeBron. We talked about Kendrick Nunn. And we got a whole spectrum here. We try to do as best as we can. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check us out next week.
Thank you for watching our latest edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also follow us on Twitter at PSSNTV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.